I wrote a memo, I think it was 2002, if I'm not mistaken, and the title was, "You Can't Predict, You Can Prepare." And I stole that. That was the tagline from the advertisements of the Massachusetts Mass Mutual Life Insurance Company, one of our big, good life insurance companies. I think it's very provocative because there's a tendency to say, well, if you can't predict, how can you prepare? Predicting is how you understand what's going to happen, and preparing is making ready for what's going to happen. So how can you prepare for what's going to happen if you don't know what's going to happen? And the answer is, if you think you know what's going to happen, you're an idiot. So preparing really means not preparing for one outcome, but for having a portfolio or approach to life which prepares you for a range of outcomes. I think that's where success lies. And, too many people in the investment business say, I think this is going to happen in the economy. This is going to happen with rates. This is going to happen with markets. This is going to happen with this industry. And this is what's going to happen with this company. And if you get all five of those right, then you end up rich as Croesus. But what's the probability of getting all five right? And if you specify, I call that single scenario investing. And if you specify that single scenario and invest as if you're right out of certainty, and it turns out a few of those things surprise you, might the investment portfolio you have fashioned be absolutely wrong and out of phase and disastrous. So preparing for a single outcome, I think, is a mistake in an uncertain world. And all we can do as investors is prepare for a variety of outcomes. We want a portfolio that will do well if the things we think are most likely happen, pretty good if the other things that we think are likely happen, and not terribly if the things we don't think will happen. Now, that's not easy. And it's complicated by the fact that there's nothing you can do that can prepare you optimally for all scenarios. So you have to say, which scenarios do I want to prepare for? Which range of scenarios do I think will fall into, and if I'm ready for them, will make me good money? And which ones do I not have to prepare for? You can't prepare for them all, by definition. So investors are always looking for the silver bullet, the thing that will make them rich without risk and without fail. But by definition, it can't exist. But as my mother used to say, hope springs eternal. And I would say that from 2004 until 21, private equity was knighted as the silver bullet. I wrote a memo in December of 22 called Sea Change. And I said in there that in 1980, I had a personal loan outstanding from a bank, and I got a slip of paper in the mail, and it said the rate on your loan is now 22.25. And in 2020, 40 years later, I was able to borrow from a bank at 2.25. So rates went down by 2,000 basis points or 20 percentage points over 40 years, pretty monotonically. And declining rates are great for people who own assets, because the value of an asset is the discounted present value of the future cash flows. And if the rate at which you discount the future cash flows declines, the value goes up. Declining interest rates are also great for borrowers because their cost of capital goes down. So what about people who buy assets using borrowed money? When rates go down, they get a double bonanza. And that's what happened to the private equity industry. And private equity tries to make money, I think, tries to make money four ways. Buy things for less than they're worth, lever them up to magnify the return on equity, add value by making them work better, and sell them at non-bargain prices. maybe elevated prices. And for a time, it did that. But think about it. Owning assets with borrowed money was the ideal strategy for a declining interest rate environment. Now, were the people who did that activity smart enough to know the rates would come down? Or did they engage in an activity and were they lucky enough to encounter an ideal environment? I tend to think the latter. I think that performance is what happens when a portfolio encounters the future. I tend to think of it kind of like an accidental encounter. But private equity was great under those circumstances. And of course, private equity was invented in that period. So if you invent a mechanism and then encounter an environment for which it is ideally suited, it shouldn't come as a surprise that it produces great success. But, Einstein said that a definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. I think another version of insanity is doing the same thing in a different environment and expecting the same outcome. And, if you came into this business like you did since 1980, almost everybody did. There aren't too many people who've been in the business 45 years because you have to be 70 or so. If you came in since 1980, pretty much all you've seen is declining interest rates or ultra low interest rates or both until 22. That was ideal for private equity and other leverage strategies, not just private equity. But the sea change memo that I wrote in December of 22 said it's over. And for the next decade, you will not be able to describe interest rates as, in general or secularly declining or as consistently ultra low. The Fed funds rate was zero most of the time from the beginning of 2009 when the Fed cut rates to fight the global financial crisis until the end of 21 when they decided to raise rates to fight inflation. Between the beginning of 2009 and the end of 21, an unusual 13-year period, the Fed funds rate was zero most of the time and I think averaged about 0.5%. My view, you're not going back to that. And if not, then private equity will still be good for people who can buy things at bargain prices and add value. But the beneficial impact of declining rates and ultra low rates will not be present, and it will not be the success it was. And it will be shown not to be a silver bullet.